Welcome to this episode on yoga for eyesight improvement. In the previous episode, we were discussing the anatomy of the eye. We will continue with the discussion on the anatomy of the eye by understanding what is the function of iris. Iris is a colored portion of the eye positioned between the cornea and the lens. So, iris is the interior muscle of the eye. Iris gives color to the eye. In tropical countries, you will see that the iris is darker in color because you need to protect the eye from bright sunlight. In colder countries, you have the iris to be in blue color mostly because there is not too much of sunlight. Iris is like the diaphragm of the eye, which opens and closes, thereby you have the dilatation and constriction of the pupil. Now coming to the next layer, retina. Retina is the inner layer which is a continuous posteriorly with the optic layer. The optic disc is present, there is a blind spot, there is a macula, there are rods that is dim light and there are cones that give bright light. Today we will understand what is the interior of the eyeball. There is an anterior cavity or the anterior chamber located between the cornea and the iris. The posterior chamber is located between the lens and the iris. Today, let us understand a very interesting portion of the eye, that is the interior of the eyeball. The anterior chamber is the area located between the cornea and the iris. The posterior chamber is located between the lens and the iris. It is filled with aqueous humor which is produced by the ciliary processes and rich in nutrients, and it is a metabolic exchange for the vascular tissue. What is a vascular tissue? A vascular tissue is something that supplies blood to the eye. So it is the area where you have exchange of vascular tissue for the cornea and for the lens. That is why as we grow older, you will see that the blood supply is reduced, the lens becomes mature, and that is when they develop a cataract. So anterior cavity and aqueous humor are very, very important areas of the eye that nurture the eye with blood, enzymes, minerals, vitamins and oxygen mostly. Now there can be certain conditions where we call increase in intraocular pressure. There are many types of increase in intraocular pressure. There is an area in the anterior chamber where you have increase in the intraocular pressure. There is an instrument an ophthalmologist will use. They will place it on the eye and it will calibrate and show you how much of the increase is there in the intraocular pressure. If it is beyond the physiological limits, it leads to a condition known as glaucoma. There are many varieties of glaucoma. We will be discussing this in great detail, and you will see that there is an open angle glaucoma, there is a closed angle glaucoma, where the severity of the glaucoma depends on the type of glaucoma. There is another portion of the lens which is called as the posterior cavity. It is otherwise known as the vitreous body. It is a clear, avascular, gelatinous body. See, remember, the vitreous body is avascular. Then the question comes, how is it nourished? By processes like osmosis and diffusion, the nutrients enter into the vitreous body. Vitreous body comprises 2/3 of the volume of the eye, and the vitreous body is the one that gives the spherical shape to the eye. So you have a semi-solid material called vitreous body in the posterior cavity of the eye, which gives shape to the eye. What does it contain? It contains 99% water and 1% hyaluronic acid and collagen. Collagen is a connective tissue. The vitreous is adherent to the retina at certain points, particularly the optic disc and the ora serrata. Optic disc means that is the area you have the optic nerve entering into the retina. That is called as the optic disc. So the interior of the eye consists of anterior cavity and a posterior cavity, and then you will see that the vitreous body plays a very important role in giving the shape to the eye. Now coming to another very important structure of the eye, that is the lens. The lens is a biconvex lens with an index of refraction of 1.336 attached to the ciliary process by zonular fibers. Lens is also non-vascular, colorless, and it is transparent. The lens consists of stiff, elongated prismatic cells. Now this is when you wonder at nature, or if you believe in God, how beautifully the lens is created. It is a biological lens. All of us have seen spectacles. We make a lens in the glass or nowadays through plastic and fiber materials. Look at this. This is a biological lens. It has stiff, elongated, prismatic cells known as lens fibers, very tightly packed together and divided into nucleus, cortex, and capsule. So the innermost material of the lens is called as the nucleus. There is a surrounding cortex, and on top of it there is a capsule. The lens can mature. That is when we call it as a cataract. That is when the person's vision becomes clouded because the lens has developed maturity. In Hindi it's called motiabin. Earlier it was a very difficult procedure to remove the lens. Now it is very simple. It is done very easily now. Today let us understand the optical pathways to the brain from the eyes. From the eyes you will see that there is vision. How does this happen? See, the first thing is, when you are seeing something, when it falls on the retina, it is actually inverted. Whatever you are seeing, let us take an example, you are seeing a tree in a forest. On the retina, it is upside down, inverted. From the retina, it goes through the optic nerve into the brain, into the occipital lobe of the brain. This is when you will see that it again comes back to the original object that you have been portraying, that you have been seeing. So you have the optical pathways from the eyes to the brain, from the brain to the eyes. And there is something called as optic chiasma. Optic chiasma is an area where you have the fibers of the optic nerve, certain fibers cross. That is why in certain conditions there is something called as hemianopia. Hemianopia means a part of the vision is lost when the person gets paralyzed. Now this is the structure of the retina. What I was telling you, from the optic nerve in the eyes, certain fibers cross and then they go to the occipital lobe of the brain. In the occipital lobe of the brain, you will see that it is portrayed again on a vertical level, what you have been visualizing. Light sensing cells are there in the retina which transform light and color into electrical signals. Now there's so much of advancement in science. We see so many things like sensors are there. In fact, all your mobiles, Android mobiles that you see, you just have to touch the screen and you will see that the thing opens up. They sense the biological senses, that is how it is. But see, time immemorial, all of us have eyes. Nature is far more advanced than us. So you have light sensing cells in your retina which transform light and color into electrical signals. But to turn that information into a complete picture of the world around you, those signals need to be related to multiple areas of the brain quickly and accurately. See, there's a lot of things involved in physiology of vision. It's a very important and interesting chapter. Here, what do you see? There are certain types of paralysis where you will see that the person is able to see. The eyes are normal, but the person is not able to comprehend what he or she is seeing. The person is able to see that. The person is able to see the tree, but he doesn't know it is a tree because certain areas in the brain do not respond appropriately. Now you need the eyes, you need the brain, you need the eyes to see the object, and you need the brain to comprehend. That is the job of cells like these retinal ganglion cells. They transmit electrical impulses from photoreceptor cells down long axes and axons that extend to the thalamus, hypothalamus, and areas in the midbrain. These long cable forms the axon bundle known as the optic nerve. What is an optic nerve? An optic nerve is a connection between the eye and the brain. What you see is what is relayed to the brain. That is what is the function of the optic nerve. This is the structure of a nerve. You see that there is a cell body, there are dendrites. Dendrites are otherwise known as short processes, and then you have the axon, which is the long process, and that is when you will see that the eye has optic nerve. Optic nerve is one of the cranial nerves. There are many types of nerves. This is called as a cranial nerve. Look at this picture of the brain, a very interesting picture. This is showing the frontal lobe. It is showing the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the cerebellum. You see the other picture. You will see that the pathway is there. You see certain nerve cells or the axons from the eye, they are crossing. They are crossing, that is the right eye, certain fibers are coming to the left area of the brain, and certain left-sided fibers are coming to the right-sided area of the brain. that is when you will see that there is a crossing of certain areas, certain nerve fibers, and in an area where it is crossing, it is called as optic chiasma. Optic chiasma is a place, like I said already, if there is a paralysis, there is a type of disorder which is known as ipsilateral or contralateral hemianopia. Depending on where the injury is there, that is where you will see that that particular area of vision is lost. It is then traveling to the occipital area. Today, let us understand what is the physiology of the eye, what we call it as physiology of vision. This is the normal vision. You have the object, you have the light from near objects. Look at the lens, it is relaying the light. See, when do we see something? When light falls on an object, we see that. From the lens, it comes to the retina, it is focused on the retina. This is the normal vision, it is focused on the retina, and this is called as normal vision. Now let us understand the mechanism of vision. What is the mechanism of vision? The light ray from an object passes first through the conjunctiva. We already learnt the conjunctiva is a thin layer that is protective around the eyes, and then you will see that it falls on the cornea. It goes through the aqueous humor, falls on the lens, falls on the vitreous humor, passes on to the retina. This entire process is called as refraction. This is called as the process of refraction. Look at the picture carefully. You will see that there is an object, light falls on the object, and then you will see that this falls on the cornea, the lens, and then the inverted image is seen on the retina. Light is received by the rods and cone cells on the retina. An inverted image is formed on the retina. From here, nerve impulses are carried through bipolar cells. There are certain bipolar cells on the retina. They carried through the bipolar cells to the ganglions, to the optic nerve, and then through the optic nerve, it goes to the occipital lobe of the brain. The brain identifies the inverted image and makes us see the image erect. This entire process refraction, let us look at the details. The cornea refracts 75% of the light transmitted. The rest is done by the lens. Image is projected on the retina, inverted. It is minimized also and real. Now look at this. You see this object. It passes through the cornea, the lens, and then falls on the retina, inverted image, and then on the occipital lobe it becomes normal again. There is a process called as accommodation of the lens. The lens is biconvex, which intensifies the focusing ability. The lens is flexible and can change curvature, very important, to accommodate according to the light and object distance. Now, what is this accommodation of the lens? Supposing you have been to work, you come home a little late, you had a busy day, you open the door. When you see inside, you cannot see anything if it has become dark. You know where the switch is. You kind of try putting on the switch. You're not able to find the switch. But after some time, the light from the sources available outside, you will see that your lens is accommodating. The first time when you opened the door, you were not able to see anything, it was dark. After some time, the inside of the house, you are able to see something. How did this happen? Because there was accommodation. The lens is flexible and can change curvature to accommodate according to the light and object distance. For faraway objects, the zonule fibers provide tension to the lens, giving it an elongated shape. For close objects, ciliary muscles contract, relaxes the tension of the lens, leading to a rounder shape. Accommodation, if you look at these pictures, you will see that there is a distance vision and there is a near vision. Accommodation of the lens. For the distance vision, you see a different type of accommodation. For near vision, you see a different kind of an accommodation. For near vision, the ciliary muscles contract and the central lens thickens, increases to increase its power. What is the alignment of the eyes? Binocular vision is there. In fact, there's a lot of research done where they say your house fly, we have only two eyes. It seems a house fly has many fragments in its eye. We have something known as binocular vision. The two eye fields of vision overlap and the image coincides, creating a single impression. This is done by synced eyes movement, where both eyes move simultaneously to maintain the overlap of vision. Though we have two eyes, we are not seeing two objects. We are seeing only one object. This is called as binocular vision. Now, fixation. What is this fixation? Involves looking stably straight ahead toward an object in space. You must have seen certain people with neurological problems. They have the vision that is darting. For example, in conditions like hyperthyroidism on a very advanced level, you will see that the eyes are darting. They are not able to fix and stabilize the particular object in the field of vision. So look at this picture carefully. Left eye visual field, right eye visual field. You will see that the object is fixed. There are many neurological problems where you will see that there is no fixation of the eye, and then you have darting images. For example, the person has difficulty in walking. Difficulty in walking because you will see that he is not able to stably fix the vision. So he is not able to comprehend how to walk that particular distance. Fusion is the power exerted by the eyes to keep the position of the eyes aligned so that the fovea can project the same point in space. Eye movements, they are controlled by extraocular muscles To the left it is called as the levoversion, to the right it is called as dextroversion, upwards it is called as circumversion, downwards it's called as diorsamversion. There is a range of focus. For distances greater than 20 feet, no accommodation is required by the lens, but as this distance shortens, the lens has to accommodate and will thicken to clarify the image. Now let us look at the comparison between the eye and the camera. You see that the diaphragm is there to control the amount of light. That is why when the person is very stressed or you are in a very stressful situation, the pupil will dilate. Why should it dilate? To accommodate more vision. The diaphragm to control the amount of light that gets through to the lens. In the eye, it is the pupil at the center of the iris in the human eye. In the camera, it is the shutter in the camera. Method of sensing the image is focused on the retina in the eye. In the camera, the film or sensor chip is used to record the image. Method of focusing, the focal length of the eye is adjusted to create a sharp image. This is done by changing the shape of the lens. A muscle known as the ciliary body does the job. And in the camera, you see that the lens has a fixed focal length. It is the object distance is changed. The image distance is adjusted by moving the camera. Now comparison between the eye and the camera, you see that, look at it, it falls on the retina. They're very similar, the eye and the camera. You will wonder with the marvel of nature how it could create something so intrinsic, so beautiful, so wonderful that can function as a biological camera. So this is a part of the video on yoga for eyesight improvement. In this video, what have we learnt? We have learnt about the iris, the interior of the eye, the retina, the aqueous humor, the vitreous humor, and physiology of vision. So I hope all of you enjoy and learn so much in this wonderful project of the Government of India, SWAYAM, in association with S. Vyasa, deemed to be university. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.